I'm here with various actors of the new films. It's great to have you guys here. Yeah, let's have
Thank
a
you
round of
very
applause.
much. Thank you. Hello. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm honored. It's really cool to be with you guys.
Thank you.
We're gonna do a panel session here with a Q&A for the audience. We have two mics, one over there and one over there. You can ask many questions, but I would like to ask that you don't ask any questions that might spoil The Last Jedi, because we're screening that tonight. Not everyone has seen it yet. Yeah, wow. Where to start? Star Wars is an immensely popular franchise. I mean, you knew that when you were embarking on this adventure, I guess. It will almost certainly be a success, but it's still, like The Force Awakens, still broke many records and managed to impress even with its expectations. Did you expect this level of success to come with the film?
I think exactly like what you've just said is the fact that it is a huge franchise. It's loved by people around the globe. It is humongous. So it's like one massive family. I think when you start on a project like Star Wars, you're always you hope that it is going to be received.
Right, yeah.
And it was hugely.
Yeah.
I think there's the want for it to be, received very, very well, and then obviously, it was.
Right. I'm so sorry. I'm also a bit nervous, but I totally forgot to introduce you.
I was wondering, because none of us have actually, as far as Star Wars is concerned, none of our faces have actually been on screen. So there's no reason why any of you would know who we actually are.
I mean, instead of me introducing you, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Let's start with you, Derek.
My name's Derek. And I'm in Star Wars. I'm one of the creature and puppeteer performers. So there's a group of us that do all of the sort of aliens and creatures through The Force Awakens and Rogue One. And
who did you play, Derek?
God. Oh man, the big ones that I played were in Episode 7. I did the Lugabeast. He's in the desert as that's the little beast that traps BB-8. A guy named Vober Dan, who's part of the Rebel ground crew. He runs the Rebel ground crew. A guy named Chancellor Vilcham. What else did I do in 7? Oh, Pow in Rogue One. Pow in Rogue One, and Bor Gullet in Rogue One as well.
And you've Last Jedi as well.
Well, yeah. Yeah, we're not talking about. We're not allowed to ask any questions.
Oh, that's true.
About
yes,
the
sorry.
Last
Yes,
Jedi.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely
Thank
right.
you, Brian.
Yeah, yeah, sure. My name is Brian Herring, and I am one of the puppeteers for BB-8, and I did a bunch of other characters throughout various points of the in the saga Rogue One, and then the films we're not talking about today.
All right, welcome.
Hello, I'm Guy Henry, and I played Tarkin in Rogue One. With a lot of brilliant digital makeup to make me look like a brilliant actor called Peter Cushing, who created the role, as you all know, in the original film.
Right, thanks.
So my name is Paul Casey, and I'm also a creature performer. I'm also the creature effects movement choreographer, so I get to work with a lot of the performers and the puppeteers to work on the movement side of the creatures and the droids and all of the above, aliens. What have I played? So in The Force Awakens, I played Elo Asti, the pilot, and then in Rogue One, I played Admiral Raddus and Edro Two Tubes, and then that's where I stop, isn't it?
That's where you stop.
Okay.
Yeah, you just want to.
Thanks, Paul. We started this. You mentioned the success, and you were eager to make it a success. Was there any feeling of pressure on the set, was it uncomfortably pressured?
Massive,
Or?
massive. Yeah, it's for especially because a lot of us, Star Wars is the most expensive The Force Awakens was the most expensive fan film ever made, because everybody involved were massive Star Wars fans,
Right, yeah.
from JJ right the way down to
Yeah.
to the guys from locations, not
Right.
at the bottom, but all the caterers,
Yeah.
everybody across the board, everybody was massive Star Wars fans.
Right.
And definitely for me, to get a job like BB-8, to put a new practical creature or droid into the Star Wars
Yeah.
canon that had to measure up to Chewbacca,
Yeah.
to Yoda, to R2-D2.
Yeah.
The personal pressure I put on myself was massive.
Right.
Because that never came from upstairs. JJ was always very, very cool.
Uh-huh.
But for me to get that right was hugely important, because Star Wars was a very, very big part of my life
Yeah.
growing up.
How do you? I understand the pressure, and there's R2D2, and then you have to do BB-8. How do you prepare for that? Like, feeling that pressure? How do you what do you do to make it a success?
Well, I did lots of things. The one thing I felt was very important for me was to go out and be physically ready to do the job. So I went and got a personal trainer, because I knew I was going to do a lot of running on sand.
Yeah.
So I had to go and get fit to do it, because I didn't want there to be a making of somewhere where this young guy, some young guy like Derek, was going, yeah, there was an old guy, he died.
Yeah.
So we brought somebody younger in to do it. So I've been waiting for so long to do the job that I really wanted to be fit to do it. And we also did a lot of R&D, and we did a lot of research and development on how BB-8's character would be, and what we could do with the different versions of the puppets, and how we could make it as good as we could make it without being too cute or too silly. We had to find where the line was.
Yeah. Oh, you walked that line very well. Congratulations. Derek, you played various parts, as you just mentioned. You played Lugabeast. This was a costume with another person.
Yeah, there's another puppeteer involved. So it was a two-man puppet, and the gentleman. So it was one guy controlling the front legs, one guy, this guy, controlling the back legs. And so if you were in the desert on the day, you would just see these human legs sticking out underneath the Lugabeast.
Yeah.
So in post-production, they had to erase us, our human legs out. But that was about a 7-month prep. We prepped for about 7 months just for that build. They took 7 months to build it, and then we'd come in every week.
Yeah.
And the design changed, because originally it was supposed to be just a robot. And then it just morphed and changed until you got half robot, half beast that weighed
Right.
20 stone, 200, 300 pounds, something like that.
200 pounds, and they
Wow.
put Kieran Shah on the back of it
Yeah.
as well. So they
And
were
it was about
carrying him around.
45 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
It was in the middle of the desert. So it was us just yelling.
Wow, that's a tough job.
Yeah. It wasn't the most comfortable, but
Yeah.
it looked great. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Are there any questions from the audience already? Yeah, could you come down to the mic? Yeah. Hi, could you just state your name and then ask your question?
Hello, my name is Peter. I'm from Apeldoorn. I have
Hi.
a question for Guy Henry. Did you practice a lot to get the real Grand Moff Tarkin voice?
Yes, I mean, sorry, I've got a bit of a cold today, so I'm not sounding like anyone but myself with a cold. But Peter Cushing was a wonderful actor who I was a great fan of. So, but long before I knew I was going to be trying to emulate him or try to find the essence anyway of him in Star Wars. But so I was really, really frightened, because, as like Brian was saying, there's not only do you not want to fail in front of the important people in the movie business, you don't want to be the tall, thin idiot from South London who gets it wrong, which I spent most of the film thinking I was doing. But you also, the Star Wars fans, as you say, they're a big family. It's an amazing passion for so many and love for so many people that you really don't want to muck that up. So I spent a lot of time trying to sound as much like Peter Cushing as I can, because I'm not an impressionist. The director took me out for a very, very secret lunch, really secret. It was so secret, it had to be held in one of the most popular media television film bars in London. So I don't know why they didn't take me somewhere else, but anyway, you know, we were, yes, yes. Oh. So I then spent a lot of time watching Peter Cushing in A New Hope, particularly. And I had a template line I used to mutter to myself before every take, which was, you would prefer another target, a military target. But I don't really sound very like him, but I did my best. But rather annoyingly, I got quite a lot of texts from, well, ex-friends, I suppose I should call them, who said, oh, as soon as you opened Peter Cushing's mouth, I knew it was you. And I thought, no, that's not right. They were trying to be nice, I think. But anyway, it was a real thrill, and I must say an honour, because apparently he was a real gentleman, and he was a lovely actor, so it was great.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it's a real good answer. Thank you.
And when this was new, like doing a part and then also being the CGI that overlaid your face, did the technicians and engineers know what they wanted, or was this like a...
I think there was an element of making it up a bit. I mean, I started with a grey wig and some makeup and some sort of, I can't remember, there were various machinations, but in the end, I ended up with just hundreds of dots, tiny dots on my face. I was also in Harry Potter, so as the final Minister for Magic, and I spent a lot of time looking at Ralph Fiennes with all his dots on. Right. So I was used to this sort of method. But when it's you, it's quite difficult, because also I had on me a big sort of head camera thing with these two lenses here, that close. So if I was talking to you, I have to be very careful not to smack people in the head. But it was very difficult to forget, of course, that you were acting, because there were these tiny little cameras photographing every move you made, and I'm not used to that. So I was a little bit stilted and self-conscious at times, I must say. But I think people were very lovely, I must say. The director, Ben Mendelsohn, who played Krennic, barking mad but lovely. We had a good time.
Yeah, the end result is great.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions from the audience? No, not directly. This is actually a question for all of you. When you get a part in this new trilogy, was this a dream come true, or well, I mean, it must be a dream come true, but it's not another job, is it? Well, it is in a way, but...
I was 7 years old in 1977, so I was that kid. I had the curtains and the toys and the pencil case, and I started work on The Force Awakens as a puppeteer consultant. So I wasn't hired to do BB-8 initially. Right. I was working with Paul and these guys just to get different types of creatures and puppets going, and then I started doing the sort of the R&D for BB-8. Yeah. And I was on that film for 16 months, which is the longest job I'd ever had. But for it to be to work on a Star Wars film was a dream come true. Towards the end of the shooting process, there was a Friday where the crew were brought in and they showed us a whole bunch of the props and the bits of set and costume, and they gave us a couple of drinks, and they showed us what then they showed at Comic-Con a few months later. Yeah. And they showed us little clips of this, and I started to well up quite early on. And we were all tired by this point because we'd been working very, very hard. And by the end of it, by the time lights came up, I was just crying. And I was in a real state. And Kathy Kennedy asked me if I was okay. Yeah. And I said, I'm not, because I've just seen what we've been doing on camera. Right. And I realised that it wasn't, and I've been doing this for I've been a puppeteer for about 25 years. Yeah. And I said, I've just realised that this wasn't something I'd always wanted to do. It was all I'd ever wanted to do. Right. It was the only job I'd ever wanted. I didn't know it existed. And I said, and now I've done it, I don't know what I'm going to do next. And she gave me a big hug and said, you're going to keep doing them. And that was it was a real moment to see BB-8 finally on a screen that big. It wasn't quite that big, but to see it that big was a major deal for me. Yeah, that must and has continued to be so.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations. That must have been so cool. And for you, sorry, Derek, for you?
Derek on the end.
What was it like for you?
Yeah, so I came onto it in a very strange way. I worked with Brian. We'd done the opening ceremonies for the London Olympics, the Summer Olympics back in 2012. And about a year later, he called me up and he said, what are you doing? I said, I was at the time I was doing a show called War Horse, which is a theater production, and it was puppetry involved.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and he's like, I'm working on a project. I said, oh, great. And he's like, do you want to help out on it? I said, yeah, sure. What is it? He said, can't tell you. I said, okay. He's like, come down to Pinewood Studios, and I'll show you. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe it was a TV show, maybe a commercial, maybe a movie. I don't know. I'd only ever done theater. Never done a student film, never done an independent film, nothing.
Right.
So we walk into the offices. He's like, you need to sign these forms first saying that you're not going to talk about anything you see here. It's about a movie called Avco, which at the time, Avco was the code name for The Force Awakens.
Right.
So I was like, Avco, okay, I'd never heard of that. Sign the forms, Avco. He's like, great, you're doing Star Wars, mate. And I was like, sorry, what? And yeah, it was the first film set I ever walked onto was in the middle of a desert in Abu Dhabi. First time I ever stepped on in front of a crew, in front of a camera or anything like that was to walk onto a desert in Abu Dhabi. So I was like, and I did this. I just thought I've peaked.
Yeah.
I've done. Where do I go? What do I do from here?
Yeah.
Because what do you do? That's my first thing.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, but I have never professionally been paid to play a human being. No one's ever wanted me to play a human. They've only ever wanted me to play animals or aliens. So I think they're trying to tell me something.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
So, but what is the next step? Is there a dream here or an ambition?
It's just sort of. I mean, well, once these floodgates open, I mean, they just sort of. We've gone on to work on other projects,
Right.
other franchises.
Yeah, I mean, we're all jobbing. I mean, you've done. We've all, you're
Yeah.
very, very famous and highly respected actor all over the world.
Yeah.
And I've been a puppeteer for 25 years. You're at it. You've been doing it for how long, Paul?
Creatures. So I've been wearing prosthetics and creatures for 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Paul's also been involved in Doctor Who and a whole load of other films. And we've all worked on various projects. I mean, to keep going, I think this is without a doubt a career high for me. I mean, it's
Right.
I don't know about yourself, but who gets to do this?
Yeah.
Well, we do, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's a thing I never thought I would do because, as far as I was concerned, Star Wars had gone away.
Yeah.
I didn't get to work on the prequels, and you thought, well, I did do an Alien. I did Prometheus. Which you think, oh, that's the closest to one of my big franchises I'll get
Right.
to do. And then it came back, and I thought, oh, to be involved in that for a couple of weeks would be amazing. But actually, I'm still there.
Yeah.
So we've been at this now for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we go away and we come back, and there's this kind of rolling group of people that there's a core group of us that keep coming in, and we bring new people in, and people go off and do other jobs. We get to work with these amazing people and these great
Right.
directors, and just the brilliant. Everybody in our shop is just
You have
top
new,
of their game.
new talents and
you
experienced
just-
people.
You
yeah.
don't get to do this. This is just the most amazing job I've ever had, and I can't think of anything that would be better. But then something else may turn up that is.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like because we started prepping in 2013 for Force Awakens. So you do the Force Awakens, and you go away for about 4 or 5 months. Then you come back for another 6 months and do Rogue One. Then you go away, and then you come back to do other movies. And so what ends up happening is you spend half of the year, every year, doing Star Wars, and so you get used to that. And it's not until you come to conventions and you meet the fans that you go, oh, it's a weird thing. You walk on your first day on The Force Awakens, you think, I am never going to forget, this is amazing. And then you're there for 6 months, 6 days a week. And you get used to it. And you never think you're going to get used to it. You never think it's going to become the norm. But it does. And it doesn't hit you again until you come to a convention and see the fans. And you're like,
Right. Yeah.
and you get to relive that first day on set again.
We
Because
do-
you get numb to it. And I hate to use that word because it is such an
It's
exciting
because
job.
it does turn into a job.
Yeah.
But we do live in a bubble down there
Yeah.
because we do these all the time, and sometimes we forget what it means to people outside of it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's nice to come to these, because people come up and say, oh, I love the way that this works or that works.
Yeah.
And when something specific gets said to you, I try to take that back into Pinewood and tell the guys who designed it or built it. There's people out there that love this stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, it's to try and take some of that enthusiasm, because they don't get, a lot of the time they don't get to come out and do this. And you know, we're really lucky in that position that people want to sort of hear these stories and stuff. So we try and take that back to the guys back at Pinewood, because they're the ones doing all the real grafting.
That's the thing, guys. I don't think a lot of people realize that for every alien or puppet or anything like that character that you see on the screen in any of those movies, regardless of how far in the background they are, there's at least 3 people behind the camera that are dedicated to putting that
That's
costume
just on set.
Just
isn't it?
on
just
set.
on set. There's 3 guys
So-
looking after everybody.
Yeah, so there's at least 2 or 3 people for every so you know, there's some scenes where we'll have 50 aliens. And there's 3 people per crew for
Wow.
that one alien.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a massive crew of like 600-700 people, and it's such a fine, like, it has to be down to the T of who's coming on where
Yeah.
and which direction.
Yeah.
And then that's not even talking about the people who spent 8 months building it,
Yep.
designing it, creating it, who are in the workshop, who never see the
Yeah.
light of day. It's just, they're just in their caves drawing.
Did you have any more, well, I can ask you, Paul, did you have any more influence behind the scenes as, like, being the puppeteers? I guess you control the character and the development as well in a certain way.
Yeah, I think we all input, don't we, all the time, and
Yeah.
we you know, if let's say, for example, I'm putting on a suit on and they're working out how it's all going to be fabricated, and they'll ask you questions. So the whole process is a team,
Right.
from beginning to end. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
Because because obviously you've got your experience, or you know,
Right.
you're bringing your experience and your knowledge, and that's shared.
Yeah.
So on every level by everybody.
And also the people that are from the front end, from the guys doing the designs, they've done a lot of this.
Yeah.
And occasionally they'll go, can we fold somebody double, get them to hold onto their ankles and have them walk up some stairs? And you go, well, you might be able to. We'll have to find someone that can do that.
Yeah.
And then you try, and there's a little bit of push and pull, but they're pretty much, they're on it from the beginning. They know what they can make practically.
Right.
And what is nice now is that we have this kind of hybrid of practical and digital, where you go, we can
Yeah.
do this much practically, and then they can assist us digitally by removing the people.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's me from BB-8 or
Yeah.
a couple of guys from behind, you know, little tiny birds or whatever. So that all comes into play as well. We go, we're going to get rid of this in CG, but we're going to have as much practical stuff as we can.
Does that make it easier for your job, or does it make it worse because they want to push the boundaries even further with the costumes and the?
I don't know. I think it's a bit of both, really, because it's great to have these tools, and now because there's been a big swing back on the Star Wars franchise to do practical effects.
Yeah.
It's nice that there are practical things on set. Sometimes they don't make it onto screen, but at one point there is always something that an actor can look at and that will leave a physical mark.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's just banging into something and you see that move there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reference done as well, and it's nice that the audience appreciates that physical.
Yeah.
You know, those actual practical effects within seeing them in the movie, because JJ with The Force Awakens wanted to make a sequel to Return of the Jedi like it was 1985, and that's why he shot it on film, and they wanted all that kind of dust all over the characters and something you felt you could, if you walked down the alley you would see it.
Yeah.
And so that's why the designers really had to kick into get their Star Wars heads on, so
Yeah.
that everything looked like Star Wars and not like something from another franchise.
Right, yeah.
You know, and the guys they've got can really just go, that's Star Wars. Then we'll
Yeah.
do that.
This is what you mentioned as well, right, Guy? That as a classically trained actor, it really helps if you're not talking to just a screen or.
Yeah.
it's-
Yes, I mean, I was wearing the strange headgear, which was quite difficult to work with, I found, because I wasn't used to it. But, you know, that I was on a set, I was with proper actors acting with me, Ben and everyone else. And so, it was fantastic. And I was just thinking that, as you say, in my case, it was mainly the costume department,
Right.
whose meticulous, brilliant research into Tarkin's original costume was so helpful. I was sort of it was newly made, but it was sort of very much like stepping into Peter Cushing's. Well, he used to wear carpet slippers apparently, because, you know, the little soft shoes rather than the big butch boots, because he found them a bit uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah.
I quite like mine, but it was a real thrill, because the detail was, God is in the detail, or so is the devil apparently.
Yeah.
But it was amazing, amazing experience, and the people who were working on the film know what they're doing, and many of them had worked on so many of the films, and as the new boy you just think, well, trust them and try and do your best, really.
Yeah. I'll take another look at the audience. Yes, we have a question.
Hi, I'm Dennis. I've got a question for Guy. Being a classical stage actor, how did your environment respond to the fact that you would play in a movie like as silly as Star Wars, while you're highly respected for more classical roles?
Well, that's very kind of you to say that. I don't think anybody makes that distinction at all, really. I mean, Peter Cushing was hugely admired as an actor, and I was trying to. It's sort of acting at one remove further. You know, when you're an actor, you turn up and you try to pretend to be somebody else, make that a credible human being as you can. I was trying to be me. I'm not never sure who that is really, but I was trying to be me, pretending to be Peter Cushing, pretending to be Tarkin. You know, so it was a bit frightening. But no, I don't think people make that distinction at all. And I think I had a supper the other evening with a wonderful actress called Harriet Walter, who's a dame of the British Empire, and she's amazing and wonderful, and some of you may know her work. But she wasn't in Harry Potter, like a lot of us were, and she's very cross about that. She's very famous and very cross. She's not really, but she would have loved to have been in Harry Potter. So if you can say you're in... I mean, I love the idea that you guys are doing, you know, you do the other films and things as well, and having been in Harry Potter and Star Wars, it's like I feel so fortunate, and I'd like to just do all the franchises now. I think Star Trek I'll do. And unfortunately, somebody does have to ask first. I keep forgetting that bit.
So it was good enough for Alec Guinness, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
absolutely.
there's wonderful actors dealing with some quite creaky scripts at times, because I mean they all admitted that. I think even George Lucas has admitted he doesn't write the best dialogue in the world, but it's nice to be there.
Thank you. We will be cheering to get you in any franchise movie now.
Oh, thank you.
Do a Marvel one.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Also, no matter how much of a trained actor you are, a job's a job, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Hello, my name's Sydney. My question is really for all of you, but you all performed as characters that aren't real. Well, Mr. Cushing, of course, was real, but in the film, it wasn't real. Were there instances where your characters' roles in the film became bigger or different because of the way you were able to capture them, and because of the way you were actually able to show that this character could be more than just maybe someone turning his head around in the window of a Star Destroyer, and maybe giving him actual dialogues in there, or maybe BB-8 becoming more of a character than he was originally planned?
There's a moment in Force Awakens. There's a character I played called Voberdan, and he's just this hairy sort of logistics ground crew. And he ended up getting a line in the movie, and that was never scripted. And it was on the day. Who built the animatronics for that? 80. Yeah, 80 Parrish built the animatronics for it. And it was beautiful. The lips and the articulation that he achieved in this face was beyond beautiful. And JJ saw it on set. And he just looked, and he just said, we have to have that character say something. That's an amazing, like, we have to. Mm-hmm. And so there was them just sort of talking to the first AD, and they just played around with a couple of lines, just purely because he just saw the beautiful animatronics that AD created. And because of that, that character now has a line in The Force Awakens simply because they saw it. Yeah, so it was very much for Voberdan for that.
Yeah. BB-8 was always a big part of the film. We didn't realise quite how big a part until I read it, and then I suddenly realised, oh, he's in this. It's not just something that's kind of kicking around. He's really in it. And we had to, myself and Dave Chapman, who's the other puppeteer who works with me on this, we had to go away and find his character. And so there were a lot of different versions of BB-8 made for the movie. Matt Denton and Josh Lee built there were 7 of them. And we got 2 weeks to go away and find his personality, and we would just look at the different versions and see what they did well, what they looked good doing, what they didn't look so good doing. Could we make it go downstairs? Could we make it look happy? Could we make it look sad? And the design of that thing is such that it's so well executed as a prop that actually it's really, really expressive. Because with R2-D2, most of R2's acting is done in the sound edit, because it was all Ben Burt stuff afterwards, so you could put different noises over R2 and he'd either be happy or sad depending on the noises he was making. But with BB-8, you can actually, you know, if you push his head forward slowly, he looks sad. You know, if you pull it back and knock it to the side really fast, he can go, oh, what's that? You know, you can make him look surprised or quizzical, or whatever. So we went away and found his personality. Then we demonstrated to J.J. Abrams, who really started to, he always had faith we could do it, but when he saw it, he was absolutely happy with how it went. So he would take time, and so BB-8 as a practical prop is in that film a lot. You know, it's because he enjoyed the way we did it, and from a script point of view, it was already there. You know, what Lawrence Kasdan and J.J. Abrams wrote there, it was all on the page, and then we just coloured it in.
Yeah, Paul, what do you think about it? Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I think generally, I think we all want more, if you see what I mean. We're all wanting sort of our characters to have something added, or shots and things like that. And quite often it does happen. And I think there is that room, isn't there, when we're filming, for things to change slightly, or things to be added, or extra shots and things like that. So, yeah, I think obviously some characters, like you know, with what Brian's saying about BB-8, it was the same for Admiral Raddus. He was scripted. You know, but nevertheless, there's always room for slightly different dialogue, or you know, and that all gets shot. And then obviously further down the line, it's the choice of what gets chosen for the film and how it's edited.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we all aim for that all the time, and we're always pushing, you know, in all the shots and you know, things like that. So yeah. Yeah, I think all the performers and puppeteers and everybody, they're all wanting to push on every level, if you see what I mean.
Our boss, Neil Scanlon, who is in charge of the creature department, we would do these kind of theatrical show and tells. So we would have the stuff built, it would be ready to go 99%. The director would come in, and we would play out little scenes, sometimes with Star Wars type dialogue. We would have, like in Maz's Castle, we would have a complete walkthrough where we'd curtained off the area, and as you know, JJ and Kathleen Kennedy, those people would come to visit us. They would be shown into Maz's Castle and we'd be playing it, and all the characters would be working. So JJ would then like get his phone out and start putting digital lenses on, and just looking at things, and oftentimes he would then decide, oh, I could get something nice out of this, or we could have these over in this part of the set. Right. So some of that would come from the show and tells as well.
Yeah.
There was a great thing in episode 7. Was it Ivan that built is it the Nightwalker worm? That little red worm that pops its head out of the sand and looks at BB-8 rolling by?
I think Ivan designed it.
Designed it. It was a build. It was a really fast build. And we had about 45 minutes, and JJ was like, well, yeah, we can film that. And this thing was on about a 6-foot rod that lifted its head out of the ground, and it could turn its head to follow BB-8. So we had to dig a hole in the desert. Digging a hole in the desert is impossible. There was about 7 people digging this hole, and the sand just kept filling it in. But we were losing light. And so there's like 7 people digging, and Neil Scanlon, the head of, is there doggy digging out, just getting as much sand as we had. We finally fit this thing into the sand. We cover it all up. Neil's like, all right, Derek, lift it up and do it. The sand was in a lot of pressure. Snapped the bar on the first test. We hadn't even filmed anything. At this point, we had maybe 20 minutes of light left. And JJ's on the God mic. We call it the God mic because he has a mic that has speakers, and the whole crew can hear. And he's just making fun of us the whole time. And we had to undig it, look at it, and I was like, well, I still have left or right. I just can't get it out of the sand. So Neil Scanlon went face first into the sand in that shot. He's got his hand on the rod to lift the alien out of the ground, and for me to at least get the eye line right for B. And I think we could only get 2 or 3 takes done. And it was just down to the last minute. And again, it was JJ just going, well, yeah, all right, we'll shoot it and see if we can fit it in somewhere. And it was just like 45 minutes. That's all we had. And I remember saying, I was like, if that shot makes it in the movie, that'll be one of my favorite moments. And it did. I was really happy when we saw it.
Wow. What is one of your favorite moments in one of the movies? You're proud of, perhaps?
I think one of my favourites, on a personal level, is the thumbs up. The BB-8 thumbs up on the Falcon in The Force Awakens. Just it was a lot of fun to shoot. It was all done practically, except for the thumbs up is ILM. They've come in and put a plate over the top.
Right.
And again, that's another really good example of every tool in the box, because there's a certain amount that we can do practically, and then they come in digitally and just fix the last few little bits. And that's it was nice. He got a great big laugh in the film. And I also like the bit where he's peeping around the corner as well. That's quite fun.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite moment, Guy, that you...
I think probably the exciting moment is when the camera sees the back of what turns out to be Tarkin, and he's looking out of the window, and you can see a bit of a reflection. And a lot of people who are Star Wars audience have said to me, well, we thought that was all they were going to do. And then he turns around, and then he has actual proper scenes. It's a proper. They didn't just do a tiny hint. They felt that he was, understandably, a very important, integral part of the story. Right. That's why they did it. I mean, it was done with huge respect, I think, to the original actor, and it wasn't done as a sort of exciting gimmick. No. It was done because Tarkin was had such an important role to play. Yeah. So that was marvellous, and I love it because I keep writing it on the photographs. I have to write "You may fire when ready" quite a lot, so that's a good bit.
For you, Paul?
I have so many, probably too many, but I think if I was to choose, let's say, more an experience that I've had, and I think it has to be when we were in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi? Abu Dhabi, yeah. And we were doing, remind me of the name, Hogavore? Hapavore, okay. Yeah. So we're out there, it's very hot, but there's an amazing team of people, and obviously I was on the outside speaking to the 5 guys who are on the inside. And I just think that whole part of the film, and he's by the water, but the experience we had when we were out there, I think adding all that up and then seeing it in the movie, and it made the movie. Yeah. And quite often people have said, it's CG. Well, it's not. There are people in there. We were by the water. I'm talking to the 5 people inside, coordinating them. And it was the first thing we did, wasn't it? It was the first thing we all did. So we all went away to shoot that part of the movie. And to me, it's just that special moment when we were all out there. We'd all come together. We started to film. Yeah. And it was like, this is amazing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And now it's there forever. So, and quite often when I rewatch Force Awakens and I just watch that bit, it just brings back all those memories of how we got it to that point. Yeah. But I have to say, there is a lot of those moments throughout the films that I have. But I just thought, because that was the beginning, that is a very special time for me. And obviously, the ball is still rolling. We're still a big part of it. And it's a privilege to be a part of. It truly is. It's very special. I mean, once we start filming and we step onto sets, I mean, it is, we walk in and I feel like, oh my God, I'm a kid in a candy shop. Yeah. And there's so many amazing sets, amazing creatures, and it's just, quite often I have to pinch myself. Yeah. I mean, we're all there to do a job and we all do it the best we can, but nevertheless, occasionally you sort of think, oh my God, this is so cool.
Dream come true, obviously.
Dream come true, yeah.
And I guess it's the bubble where you're in, the camaraderie that sort of grows.
Yeah, and the team as well, because, like Derek was saying, there's so many people involved, even with one person in a suit. There's a huge crew, and we literally, it is one big family, and we all work together and we all strive to better, if you know what I mean, and to push the boundaries and get more out of the creatures and more out of the animatronics and more on screen. I mean, that's our daily our daily job really.
Yeah.
And what's quite interesting about that, from each different department, whether it's through design, from I can only really speak from the creature department point of view, from whether it comes from concept design, through fabrication or sculpting or mechanics, and you speak to any of those guys, they'll tell you completely different stories about the same thing from their point of view, which is always really, really interesting, because they, I mean, there's two of the concept designers are on. I think they're on straight after us.
Yeah, that's correct.
Martin and Jake, who are just brilliant, and they'll tell you about what their brief was in designing something like BB-8 or Radis or any of those characters, and then so it goes from them and it goes through sculpting, and it just that process alone is so fascinating, because it's the stuff people never hear about.
Yeah, you're quite right. Thanks. It was great having you guys here. Thanks for sharing your stories.
Thanks
and your
for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm honored to have you here, to have interviewed you. Let's have a big round of applause for them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.